Everybody, welcome back to Cover Calls and Short Puts. My name is Mike Fairborn, sitting in for Cameron May, who'll be out for the next few weeks. So, looking forward to our discussions as we go forward with this, folks, and really want to talk today about income strategies for, as we specifically look at the chart to help us understand the potential for those income strategies. So, particular chart setups I want to be focused in on specifically today. Um, we're going to definitely be looking at some of the short put scenarios as they do set up, are potentially setting up within the market right now across a couple of different indices, but maybe some stocks that you'll recognize. A lot of those larger cap stocks have been the ones that have been moving and been a little bit more consistent with the trend relative to some of the smaller cap stocks and even mid cap stocks in that regard. So, welcome to each of you here. We've got Barb Armstrong in the chat. Great to have Barb here. Folks, follow Barb on X, Barb Armstrong CS. I'm Mike Fairborn CS. That is on X, also known as Twitter, or was Twitter. Love to have you follow us if you're not already. And in addition, welcome to you, Paul. Life in the fast lane. We've got Mark on board with us. Hello to you, Mark, as well as Rojo, David, Dan Reisberg, as well as David and Gentle and Kevin. Folks, any questions, comments you have, filter those into the chat so we can help address those for you. I'll keep an eye on that for you as well, along with Barb. And folks, let's get started here. So, I've got some disclosures to read, and we'll dive right on into things. So, first off, options carry a high level of risk. They are not suitable for all investors. Information here is for general information purposes only. Investing does involve risk, including the loss of principal. Now, short options can be assigned at any time up to expiration, regardless of the in-the-money amount. An ITM option does have a higher risk of being assigned early. Paper money software application for education purposes only as well. A stop loss order will not guarantee an execution at or near the stock activation price. Once activated, they do compete with other incoming market orders. With a stop limit order, you risk missing the market altogether. Yeah, that's a key point with that for sure. Rolling strategies can entail additional transaction costs, including multiple contract fees. Quick note too, if we do hit some of the dividends, which some of the stocks will pay dividends, and just wanted to state that there are risks associated with investing in dividend-paying stocks, including but not limited to the risk that stocks may reduce or just stop paying dividends altogether. Okay, so altogether, now let's take a look, folks, at what we're looking at here within our markets. A little bit of a dip. It was interesting. We were off early this morning, moving a little bit higher, but then we actually, yeah, just very early. And then we just kind of reversed and came back down again a little bit, back into a range that I think we are kind of familiar with. At least we have been over the past few weeks. Yes, we are going back to really last Wednesday, you'd say. We're still sort of in the sideways channel. You don't really see that too well looking at just this last bit of price data here. But yeah, we're still kind of back, and we have, on a 30-minute chart, really kind of holding tightly into that range. But that's interesting. I keep bringing up the word holding. We'll see if we do hold in here, but it has been range bound, and we've kept a lot of the gains thus far. A quick look over here at just the Mag 7 playing a key role in technology in general with these rallies that we've seen in technology within the S&P 500 itself. Just coming down the line and just seeing what we've got here in terms of net changes. Well, in terms of the Mag 7, I mean, you've got a couple of them that are actually positive. Google's actually up today. I did want to take a look at Google and actually Microsoft as well. Didn't realize that these others, let's see, Tesla, for example, pretty big down day. Although some traders might be looking at Tesla, perhaps coming back down near a support level. Thought I'd bring it up as we're looking at it right here. This too, if we do finish off the day something like this, also known as an interesting candlestick pattern, really a confluence of candles, not bundled up, but spread out, known as a three, I can't write this whole thing down, sorry. I'll put the three in though. Three soldiers down. A lot of times you'll see three, look at that, 1, 2, 3 bounce. That might also be adjoined with a support level. It's not always three, but that is a candlestick, one of the candlestick patterns out there. This is kind of a 1, 2, 3 as well, coming back to a similar range there. So interesting on Tesla. But really much of the tech move has been related to AI, that runway spend, not to mention just technology in general, semiconductors for sure. All right, so having said that, I don't have a list of what Cameron had. I did want to look at, basically 4 to 5 companies today. Looking at some of the short puts first. I want to go through that. In fact, let's just start off with Delta right here. Now, one of the reasons why I pull up Delta, forgive me for just a second, I'm going to pull up just a little bit of a summary I have over here on the left-hand side. Berkshire Hathaway, many of you people are probably aware of Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett's holding company. Guy that knows a few things about stock, you'd have to say here and there. Although some of that's been passed off to another individual. Um, he did just report a 13D for March. Let me just make the note over here. We looked at it last week, but there was another one that just came out. I guess the final one. We looked at it last Friday, but that was for the prior group. Still, interesting basket of stocks. But um, this was as of March 31st. So you get to see last quarter when Berkshire Hathaway reported, and Delta Airlines made that list. They were ad, the top ad at 39, almost 40 million shares added, or an investment of about 2.65 billion, 2.65. Now, a lot of times when some of these larger term players take on big positions like this, that's a big position in my book. Although he does have 397 billion in cash, credible, the biggest holding ever for Berkshire Hathaway. A lot of times they're looking at that fundamental side. I'm going to clear out some of this additional data that I've got here. Clear the data set drawings. And I just want to kind of highlight here what we've been seeing as we utilize the chart for the possibility of an upside move, or at least, and I thought this was one of the most amazing things when I first learned about short puts. One of the most amazing things is a neutral trade too, up, down, or sideways, right? We do know that short options could be assigned at any time, but traders will look for the price to be holding above that strike price, which I thought was fascinating. It's because we are talking about income strategies in this class, specifically with the short put trading, or yeah, the selling of short puts. But it is fascinating that you can look at a trade and just say, yeah, up as much as it wants, sideways as much as it wants, even down to a degree, and that can be a larger degree, particularly when implied volatilities are high. Okay, you might get more bang for the buck in that regard. But three directions and you can still make your max gain. How'd you guys feel about that? Wasn't that interesting the first time you heard that? I was fascinated by it. It's a strategy that I think a lot of traders do employ. Um, but it's income. Now, you wouldn't make as much as the price of the stock just shooting up. Now, of course, with that, what do we have to do here? We have to buy low and sell high if we're just one way directional, right? If we're just buying the stock, got to buy low and sell high. Of course, you could make more, but we're talking about income strategies here. Particularly, it could open the floor to a whole larger basket of additional companies because we're adding in that neutral, or even when we say sideways, yeah, there's a little, sideways isn't just flat, it's range bound. So you get a little bit of that downward move too. But there's sort of a buffer range in there, or a range in general to look at. So, yeah, it is interesting though. Curious how you guys thought about that. But, and then one of the beauties of selling a short put too is if you were good with buying the company. I'm choosing this one first. We'll kind of mix this up a little bit. Some that are trading up kind of with recent momentum higher and lower. This is not obviously in the tech group, but I chose it for, we looked at it for another reason, maybe based on longer term fundamentals, which could also play a role. I mean, I'm just talking about some of the reasons that maybe Berkshire Hathaway would take a over $2.5 billion position on it. Maybe they're saying something longer term that we could use on a short term basis just to collect income over a period of time. For example, just as an example there, if I come over here and take a look at just there's our weekly chart right there, just big picture. There was that significant dip, but we came outside of that, and that actually was a dip across the board, really with the Iran situation. But here we are right now, resting above it. Now, do you guys see anything else here? I just want to look at the pattern because we're looking for potential strength going forward. I'm going to clear out a couple of these now just to give us a fuller screen here to draw on. Perfect. Okay. Notice over here with me, I mean, we are making some progress as we have, it is true, we have been hitting on some resistance up top, have we not? So there's clearly been some resistance there, but there have been higher highs. And if we draw a line through here, we refer to that as a right angled triangle. It might be gaining some strength, some momentum to break through that level. Where did we think Berkshire Hathaway may have made some purchases? Well, possibly you look for volume when the big institutions jump in, right? A $2.5 billion addition. In here, I mean, obviously some big volume coming in here. Not much sense, but we are still holding higher levels. So, having said that, traders utilizing those three potential directions, they might shoot for something a little bit lower. So, what about a strategy that might be possibly below a support level? That's a 65 number or near a 65 level, as prices have done what recently? This is kind of an interesting time for somebody that might be looking at a short put with any stock that you're looking at, really. That's because what have prices just been doing here? They've been sort of flagging a little bit, which is also another kind of potential trade setup. There's your flag right there, or even a smaller term flag, which could be interesting too, but like right there. That's a flag, right? There's a flag right there. And with that, obviously, the price of puts shoots up when prices dip. So that could make the premiums a little bit better. Implied volatilities can go up as well. One thing too is that when volume really dies down here on a flag, is what traders like to look for. That could be the sign of this, maybe just the selling pressure is drying up, which could be an interesting time to look for a range to sell a put in. Now, the other thing too, I've just got to throw this out here, everybody, because yeah, Warren Buffett, like I said, or Berkshire Hathaway in general, that strategy is designed to buy and hold. One of the interesting things is, and Warren Buffett used to be a big put seller. I don't know if people know that. I don't think he's doing too much right now. He's getting kind of up there in years, but that was one of his strategies, which makes total sense to what he does. If he says, if I can buy the stock down here, some traders might like to do that. I'm highlighting 65 or near 65. It could be 67.50. We'll look at the deltas here in just a second. But look at this with me, guys. Do you see something here too with that dip? Take a look. Shoulder, head, shoulder. If that's the case, they don't always happen at the bottom. Sometimes they are part of consolidations towards the top, and they are also something that can I mean, well, it does have an upside target. That upside target is simply just this. Take the high range to the low range, take that potential range over here and just add it to the upside. One of the cool things about short puts is, and by the way, that's just kind of an estimate, but that's getting us close to maybe a big round number up here. Perhaps 100. We don't know. That's a question mark, but that's would be kind of a general range. It might be slightly above 95 as I'm just looking at it here. But one of the things is has anybody here ever started a position as a short put initially, but then as maybe you get more signs of what you would consider, or a trader may consider confirmation, like say, for example, a hold or the beginnings of a breakout of a flag, that's when you might decide to go long. But in the meantime, you might want to try to collect some income because it could stay flat too for a little bit. Not to say that you have to do it, but do we just because we sell a put, that doesn't mean we couldn't add a stock position on later. We don't talk about stocks in this class except for covered calls. But yeah, and then I mean, obviously you could do a covered call too, but you want to be mindful of how much risk you have out there. But I'm just saying, if there's a bigger pattern in play and you start to break out, and maybe some institutions are very interested in this company, well, that could fuel that rally higher, right? It could move it up. So be mindful of that too. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's look at our deltas and the delta range. At least we teach this. I've seen traders do different levels, and there's not really a right or wrong range, but you try to balance out the premium relative to the risk that you're getting. But on the delta, zero point 0.2 to zero point 0.4 is something that we teach in our course. Some traders will try to balance that out, risk versus the premium side, but some go a little higher, some go a little bit lower, depending upon just the bullishness that you have or bearishness, or just the extent of the pullback that you think might be in place. So let's do this. We'll go right to the trade tab and we'll go ahead and hit it. And by the way, in terms of the time frame, Cameron's probably looked at this, but 20 to 50 days is common. Sometimes we'll go out further if some traders think that there's a fundamental play. They might try to capture more premium now, or just simply do it from 1 month to the next and kind of measure it out that way. But here's we look at this. Hey, the spreads aren't too bad. We're about getting close to 4 million shares on the day right now. So as you look at it, what do you see? Well, that 67.50 kind of sticks out in terms of open interest. 65 kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. Maybe we're not the only ones looking at this. Maybe. I would guess that we're probably not. But there you go. That's the biggest one right there, right? How much are we getting out of that 65? Well, we're getting this range right there. And in terms of the delta, and the delta's at 0.26. Now, a quick note on the delta, we want to state this, is a delta, again, is measured by a $1 increase in the amount of the underlying up top, the stock itself. So if the stock goes up $1, this range under the delta will move down about 26 cents. Now, the interesting thing here is it's also used as an expectation from traders. They will see this as an expectation that they'll look at that and they'll say, well, there's a 26% expectation that will go below this level. So let's go ahead and put this trade on for now. I do want to show you, though, kind of a strategy that some traders can use in terms of the exit, just monitoring that exit level. Like how much do we want to risk on this? And the thing is if some traders say, you know what, we were just looking at this, that's about, let's just say on average. So they're saying possibly, approximately, I didn't mean to put the dot in there, but approximately a 75% chance, just according to Delta. Folks, we have factored in other indicators besides that. We looked at the trend. We looked at really today's conversation is about the chart, although we threw another little element in there with Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway's largest position. I keep having to adjust that because I think he did turn it over to a man by the last name of Abel, just as of lately. But if we're saying 75% according to this, and this number does change, the delta does change, the expectation. And let's just say over long periods of time, we approximate 75%, and maybe it's higher, maybe it's a little bit lower in terms of our wins. But when we're wrong, how much do we want to risk if we're just looking for income only? Let's just say in this particular scenario, we don't want to hold a position. Okay. Although some might, based upon what we said, some might try to buy it lower. But let's just say we're just looking for income, which is part of our discussion today. Where do we want to close that at? Well, what if we did this? What if we get it for the mark, the mid-range here? You know what? Let's add that. This is really, really helpful too when you try to sell. If you don't have it, I'm going to add it in here. Let's add it. See, I don't have it. Let's just add to this right now the mark. So we got to get the mid-range after the bid and ask price too, because a lot of times you're able to, especially when you're just selling one option and not a spread. I put it at the very top. Uh, by the way, that way it just gives you a quick middle count. You see, so we're about 155. Um, by the way, after you do that, come over here and make sure everybody, just make sure you save that column. It'll just look just like it says. The nice thing about this is it just tells you exactly the name of what it is. Boom. Okay. So now every time I come here, I can just come in here and just pull it up quickly. I've got several, but whatever. This is the one I'm using generally for these classes for sure. But as you come over here, so 155. So if we take that 155, let's click on it. We're just talking about short puts in this class. There are other classes out there. I know Barb teaches a lot in terms of her trading a smaller account where it is helpful to reduce that buying power effect by doing a spread trade. But in this class, covered calls, short puts, I'm going to just bump this guy up a little bit more. I'm going to shoot for that 155 mid-range. It says 156, fine. We'll keep it there right now. But what if I said 155 And I just said just a times two on that for potential exit level, like we talked about with the stop. So in other words, when I'm wrong, I'm willing to risk just the amount that I have here that I'm trying to get to the upside. Because I don't want to make it too big. Now, of course, we talked about with the stop, there's no guarantee and things can move very, very quickly. But I just want to throw that out there because something to be mindful of, right? Maybe you don't want to risk too much. So like 310, right? 310 or so. We're looking at that range. So I'm just going to go over here and actually let's just do it with a stop up top. We can do it this way. This is a little quicker if you're starting from the get-go, just like right buy custom. Let's see. Excuse me, sell. Let's see. I'm gonna do just with a stop, sell custom with a stop. I'm just selling this, and there is the buyback level. And I want to increase it just to the amount that I had. I'm just going to stick with the 155. Looks like a little bit tighter here. Fine. A lot of times there is a spread in here, and they might shoot close to the mid, just like they oftentimes will do on a spread trade. So try to, I mean, you can try to get more if you want. By the way, it will throw the bid and ask price out here, so it kind of advertises it anyways. So traders might see, oh, I see a price out here, they might hit it or whatever. When I say advertise, it just shows the bid or ask is what I'm saying to the market. Okay. Good till cancel. We'll just do a single contract. That's fine, just for now. And we're just going to add this up to about double that level or whatever you want. I mean, I'm just saying you might want to, as a upper limit for now, let's just go three. So I'm willing to risk almost the one that I'm gaining right here to the upside, right? Because to get up to that level, it would be 310 specifically from this level I'm getting. I just put three as a round number. Okay, we'll just keep it there. All right, let's do this. Good, confirm and send. There we go. And buying power effect, you take a look at that. You look at the credit amount showing on the order confirmation dialog box. Always be mindful of commissions. Just making sure we've got our correct levels in place. I do have the good tail cancel in there. Everything seems to be lined up. I'm going to send that through right now. All right. And the very generous paper money, sent it through at 155. So here you go. We got that one in place. Okay. So build on a couple of other strategies. Now, in general, this stock went to it was kind of moving to the upside, right? Now we have had some others in there and one that's kind of a mix over here in terms of the tech stocks, right? Not Meta, I was looking at Microsoft. Although it's up today, look at Microsoft right here. Take a look at Microsoft. So Microsoft, let's flip it around a little bit because I know some of you do like the bottoms, some of you do like the tops. Momentum or consolidation plus maybe some more undervalued if it's perceived that way, right? So, a quick note on Microsoft. Even though they have been down, this last earnings report, they did report a high growth in their Azure, right? Which is, let's see, yeah, that's their cloud computing. Those annual revenues are growing about 40%, and that represents kind of a bigger portion of growth. Yeah, as I'm looking at the numbers here, so it's interesting. We did gap down, but we ended up holding that level. And it is one of the companies it was up Friday. It's up again today. Do you see this? Because it all comes down to the pattern. I like to give a little bit of background on the company as to why maybe it's not fundamentally, too chaotic, but maybe there's some growth there as well. In case, like we said, later down the road, a trader wants to start off with selling an option, but then maybe adding it into an actual position later on, for example, whether that's a covered call or whatever it might be. But looking at the charts, really, as I look at this, one of the key things I'd note is I think this is really the first time that we broke above a higher point coming down, at least since October of last year, actually before Halloween of last year, right? There was this double top, then we broke the what appeared to be the double bottom, and from that point on, it was lower lows and lower highs very, very consistently. Now that's a higher high, and this you could say is a higher low, sort of. sort of. I mean, like right now it is a higher low. And by the way, it's holding at an interesting level. That's like 400. It's a big round number, but it doesn't have to hold there. But it's holding right now. We only know if the trend has changed if it makes a higher high. Now, because it did report good. All right, let me just double check on the earnings over here. Right there under the earnings, you guys can check that out. Hang on a second. Come on there. Yeah, it did beat earnings. Yeah, I thought it did too. I remember that, but remember that I think one of these days, I mean, sometimes you see earnings and also the market had a big down day as well. So that's kind of like, well, sometimes that happens, even if they have really good earnings. I've seen companies that have bad earnings pay a dividend. It tries to gap down lower, but the market's so strong, it just powers to the upside. So you say, what happened? Market was strong. Sometimes it works just the opposite, the market to the downside. So tracking those earnings can be somewhat helpful to do as well as you go through it and track those um, as you go through them. But yeah, so taking a look here at this, I just wanted to highlight and state that, you know, perhaps, and here is, and by the way, do you guys see any other patterns in here? I don't know if you've typed anything in the chat box. If you see it, I'd love to see it mentioned in the chat. But oh yeah, interesting, Mark. Yeah, it may not be. Yep, that's interesting. I was reading just on a side note to just the comment that Mark made that like some of these really high-powered AI engines, they're actually creating they can create like PowerPoint, like I'm talking like in total. They could just like create their own sort of PowerPoint. I don't know how that looks for Microsoft going forward. I don't know if that's part of the downward move, but it was fascinating to see that too. I think it took it like 5 hours or something to build like a PowerPoint. Crazy stuff. But maybe it is better. And a lot of the software has been down quite a bit too as of late, many of you know. But there might be some other patterns out here. I mean, this is kind of a weird looking one, but I mean, shoulder, head, shoulder, sort of. It would have a really weird neckline if that would be the case. It'd be like over here, but then it would also have potentially a higher price target too if you're using this range. I've seen this drawn before by technicians, and it makes sense. But also, what I would just highlight is maybe there's one a little bit more clear in here too. Again, utilizing the chart strategy here. What do we have? That's the initial move up. If this were anything like a sort of a flag type pattern over here, you could see something like this coming up, which could be of interest to you as well. So just park that in the back of your minds. I mean, I'm just saying that would be like a flag pattern. So traders coming down here and selling that 20 to 40 delta, well, that could be of interest as well. So let's do this. I'm going to come up over here and just actually before I dive into that, let me just quickly share this. Folks, if you're getting value out of this presentation, smash that like button. Just lets Barb and I know that you're getting value out of it. Be sure to subscribe to our Trader Talks list over here. I'm going to go into our playlist over here. We've got a number of different coaches you guys can get. Encourage you to subscribe. We do have 197,000 subscribers. I think many of you already are on board with this, but in case you're not, it could be something interesting to check out. Barb's got some great stuff, technical analysis, and then other classes she teaches as well. I do one of the chats for her class within the trading a smaller account. She does a great job in that class. Check that out too. Just a quick note. I'm going to just highlight one thing here. If in fact you guys are interested, I just brought that up because I was just thinking Microsoft. Microsoft itself, that earnings line, we can create that within technical analysis. And so I will actually overlay on my technical charts. We can create it with ThinkScript. I overlay an earnings chart too. So you can actually see this over here. See the earnings trend. What do you think of the earnings trend, folks? Pretty decent, right? That can also help behind the scenes to sort of build some structure to the trend to kind of keep it at least not like, well, if earnings are growing, it could help chart the chart to continue to also move in the direction of the trend. They're not totally aligned, but it could prevent like a downward move. And that's something also, we're selling puts below where prices are trading. Those two could come together, perhaps. In that class that I did do last Friday, though, you can put this earnings line on the chart to help give some of you an expectation that, hey, if earnings are up, maybe the chart will go up higher as well. I'm just going to throw this out here just so you guys have it. Oh, yeah, and Barb noted that. Subscribe, absolutely. Let's do this. So this is it's the last one I did. Let's see. Earnings right there, just as of Friday. But that's the playlist for that class. Yep. And so, with that, I'm just going to show you what that looks like over here. You can download it, you can understand it a little bit better by going into it in a little bit more detail. This is it right here, and it can be utilized on the chart itself, just right there. So you see how earnings are going across, right? It just presents an earnings line on the chart. So it just gives you a general sense what's happening on a particular company. I'll throw this into the chat box if you guys want it. But again, remember to follow Barbara Armstrong CS, Mike Fairborn CS. Here is that right there. You can get it on the chart. And actually, if you go to that too, that's that same YouTube link, actually directly for this class and not the playlist itself. All right. Well, let's get back to our chart here because we do need to go in and we need to go into our deltas here because we've kind of explained why the chart could help us with an income strategy here and maybe even more, perhaps on the fundamental side. But let's go over here and take a look at it. Now we're just in that same range again, 31 days. How do we stand over here? By the way, looking at the chart, 400 is kind of a big number. We're kind of shooting up. Will it continue on up, or do some traders want to actually sell below prior support? Because that could be if prices come down, 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 down. Maybe that's an area where it could bounce, but maybe they want a little bit more of a range just below there, too. How do those deltas line up around 400? Well, there's your 400. Look at that, right there. Look at the 395. It's just slightly lower, and we're right there. Now, this is not a cheap stock. It's a little bit more expensive. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to get us a few more of these contracts in here that we can, oh, not 5,000. How about 50? There we go. So we can come down here and take a look at where we're at. So there's the 400. What do you guys think? Sometimes going a little bit lower gives you a little bit more of a range where prices might not go into that level versus the higher levels. This takes us all the way down to look at the where's the 380 at? I'm just curious. Wow, all the way down here. So having said that, let's go over here and point this out. Options expiration is on the 19th of June. Now, a couple of different things we've got. Did you guys know that between here and now, between here and then and there, we have two holidays? Two holidays. And what happens to these options over holidays? It's the same thing that happens every day, right? There's theta. Theta is the time decay of that option. 380, we'll look at the 380, 390. That's decaying at about $11 a day, per contract. It was 11 cents, but it's $11 as a multiplier there, about $11 a day. Now, that would also include weekends and holidays. So one of those is a Friday. Actually, the last trading day for these options would be the 18th of June because we have Juneteenth. Oh, it does say 18. But Friday is okay, so it goes actually, Thursday, I guess you'd look at it that way. Let me just double check this real quick. I'm pretty sure, but hey, I want to be really sure as I look at this and go down for you guys and look at June, third Friday of the month. We're looking at the monthly contract. Yeah, the 18th. So they've got it right. They're not putting in there the Friday. That's actually the Thursday. 18th is the Thursday as I look at it right now. Okay. So there's a little bit less time in there for that option. And then also we have this coming Monday, right, is also a holiday too. So with all that, we can come over here and look at these levels. So why don't we do this? There's another support level actually here. There's one through here, and there's also one here. As an example, to widen this out, because the trend has been what? Down. It's been down. Now, if it's been down, I know we just recently took out these highs, but we haven't actually changed the trend yet. So let's just build in an extra layer of room in here. So instead of 400 or 390, let's just move it down because the trend direction is also down. You guys good with that? You can always do a paper trade using something different if you want, but we're getting this 380. It will reduce our buying power effect because it's just a smaller amount versus, well, I'll highlight this for you guys just so you can see it here. But there you go. There's the 380 right here. How are we doing on that 380? So I'm going to do this. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to right click still. I'm going to go over here, buy custom with stop. We'll do the same stop kind of an approach over here too as we look at it. But in fact, let's just get this set up. We'll just do a single contract. It is expensive. The buying power effect is going to be a lot higher. This makes it easy. Well, if we go at that price, the spread here, oh, what happened? Did I click on what did I do wrong? Thought I clicked here. Oh, sell custom. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to bump it up. The mid is about 118. You know, let's do this. I'm going to shoot this up just a little bit. I'll just go 118 to try to get in at that level. Now, making this nice and easy, just going through and using like still potential stop level. Just do something like this. So 218, 2.18. So easy and deliberate. 436. I'm willing to risk 218 on the upside. Now, again, we said that's at least where we're positioning that stop at. So here's our 436. Let's go over here. We'll go to a good tail cancel. And let's just see what this looks like for a Microsoft. Again, this is one that's down, 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 down. Has been. Recently, maybe some signs. Did beat earnings. You can check the earnings line as well if you want to put that on your chart. Give you the link to do that. That's can be interesting, but they did beat earnings, but hasn't flipped the trend just yet. Not just yet. So we went a little bit lower. Buying power effect, a little higher than the last one. I think Delta was about 900. Those can change with the market, but there you go. That's where we're at right now. There's your credit, and there are your levels. We're looking at one contract. Okay, so we always want to make sure we go through that dialog box. Let's go ahead and send that through right now. All right, we'll give it a chance to see if it does fill, and we'll go from there. If not, we can get into it later to make it to help that fill, but let's just see what we've got here. Cancel, replace. There we go. So it was still 218. Yeah, we went a little bit higher. There you go. All right. Normally paper money will hit us pretty quick, but there you go. All right, let's continue on. Let's go to the upside again on some of our trades. So looking at some other trades. Oh, there we go. So I want to go ahead and take a look at another one that has been up. It is still part of the Mag 7. There's the fill. Okay, and it still could be in maybe a chart setup that could be sort of a flag base. Now, don't mind what I've got. This is for our swing trade class that we've put in place over here. We got a swing trade. We've got some levels in there, but I still wanted to highlight this because this could be, I mean, this is actually this was like the massive move. If it were to do this, that's a huge type of a swing trade. And sometimes after you have a big run like this, you might have a longer consolidation. We put our potential stops like right down through here, but at least I can highlight what we've got on something like this so we can look at it. I might just let you guys, look at the trade itself because I've actually got one on for the class. I don't want to just double up on another one, but here's one that you might not have seen because you might not have been in my swing trade class. Okay, so we've got the target in range. It's kind of a longer term move, but one highlight over here is that long term, again, tapping into the chart, sometimes the longer that support level is over here, this shows up on a weekly chart. It can be a bigger support level. And you'll notice the last few days, what have we done? We've gravitated towards that level right there, which is 260. You can't really quite see it, but it's 260, very, very close to it. So, like, again, what are we talking about here? Holding up near that level. Actually, I think we still put a trade on. We should put one on because this here was just a directional trade of 50 shares in our swing trade class. Kind of expensive stock still, but there you go. This one could position us, and still be a higher, let's say, expectation of being profitable because we're not looking at just one direction. We're looking at it maybe to be range bound. Let's take a look over here. Look at that. So quite a bit of activity over here around 240. Now, how does that 240 match with our deltas? I'm going to say too that that's very, very close. Just eyeballing it here to a Fibonacci level. And a lot of times they will, there it is. A lot of times they will come back near a 50% level. Boom. Look at that. 240. It anchors. Does it mean it's going to hold there? No, but traders will look for Fibonacci levels to anchor with prior levels. And there's a lot of, ooh, there's a gap in there too. A lot of activity touching at that point. Let's do it. Let's just take a look at that 240. Let me clear these off now. But those other levels on the Fibonacci could be interesting too. Notice we're still at the 23.6. That's fine. If we were to sell something around 240, I mean, the traders are just anticipating that they could collect, that full premium here. If prices were simply to hold above that level. And that still gives us a little bit of room to dip too, doesn't it? Chart can be very, very helpful here. Let's clear this out. Whoops. Okay, right click and remove drawing. There we go. Deltas over here on this one are, our 240 is right there. Okay, so still about right in that range and a pretty good spread. About 186 is our mark right here. 185, 186, somewhere in that range. And by the way, again, we looked at this earlier, but we're almost at 24 million on the stock. Let's just compare this now. I like to just draw a couple of different lines across here because open interest too can be helpful. I mean, a lot of times that can be our opening of the position, and it can help to facilitate our closing of the position. And this is in the tens of thousands. And all else equal, folks, that's a positive. So let's get this one going. And there it is right there, 240. I'm going to right click, sell custom with the stop, and we'll put it down here. Um, let's go ahead and go GTC. We got these are all just single contracts here today. Go ahead and feel free to put in whatever number you want in here. You can make it, you can vary it around if you want, or you can just simply, what if well, yeah, I'll just do this. I was going to create a variation, but bag it. We'll just keep it the way we had it today, nice and simple and straightforward in terms of a potential exit level. 1.83 times 2, 366. That's all I'm doing. I'm just going to say we'll risk what we thought we could get to the upside. Try to limit that. Now, do you have to do this? No. Specifically, if you thought you wanted to buy this stock, right? If you wanted to own it, you're really just saying if it goes below there, great. I wanted to own it cheaper anyways, right? Which could be something with a short put too to look at. There's your buying power effect, folks, just under 3,000 as it stands right now. There's your credit, and here is your trade. Let's go ahead and put that on through right now so we've got it. Okay, and there you go, folks. 3 stocks today. I did say I was going to look at 4. I'll just throw one out just so you can see one. But also, kind of to the upside too, Google showing some strength in a range. Just because it's not going down perfectly in a flag doesn't mean you couldn't shoot a little bit lower here as well for possible short puts. So today it was short puts. Next week, though, we're going to mix it up a little bit. Maybe do a little bit of the option wheel, maybe. Or we can do some scans too to look for maybe the highest volatility, whatever the case might be. We'll think of something because you guys have me for the next 2-3 weeks. So, by the way, it's great to be here with you. Fun class to teach. Thank you so much, Barb, for your help in the chat, and appreciate all the comments that you guys have had. Again, smash that like and follow Barb and I on X. I did throw in a link there. You can also get that link if you did want to take a look at utilizing that additional fundamental factor on the chart that can kind of help point out to you is the direction of the earnings trend also going up. Just so you get a quick glimpse of fundamentals on the chart as well. So just a side note there. But all right, everybody. I don't think there was a survey, Barb. No, she definitely would have had it if so. So, all right, everybody. Hey, we'll see you next time. Take care, all.